loves. My name is Shawn Coleman. I am a cuddle professional, a boundary coach, and all-around consent expert. And I have been away for a bit, and I really wanted to come back today to talk to you about a new term that is related to consent that was literally made for this time, this experience, this revolution that we're going through right now. So this term, are you ready? It's Euretic consent. That's right, Euretic consent. No worries if you've never heard of the term, it's a new term. Also, no worries at all if you've never even heard of Euretic. Most people haven't. It's kind of an ancient term or an archaic term that doesn't really get used a lot these days. And in fact, isn't even in most dictionaries if you still use dictionaries. So like even like dictionary.com, I guess a lot of online dictionaries don't have it either. So again, no worries, I will define it for you and I will talk about the term as a whole. We'll get there. So if you're already on this page, I assume that you know the term consent frontwards and backwards, C-O-N-S-E-N-T. You can define it with the best of them. And you know that basically it's about us having ownership of our bodies and our personal experiences and other people essentially needing to get permission before they can do things like touch our bodies, you know? And that's something obviously that's evolved a bit over time, going from things that were simply like only sexually, and also now we're kind of in a place where people are more demanding that people get consent before getting hugs and things like that as well, which I am so for. So yes to that. All right, so Euretic consent. So Euretic, E-U-R-E-T-I-C. Again, E-U-R-E-T-I-C. So Euretic consent, Euretic is often spelled with an H at the beginning. So you may see it that way in some dictionaries as well. And it's the same thing. You may be more familiar with the term like heuristic, like heuristic traps and things like that. Heuristic traps are something that come up for a lot of people when doing studies on like diversity and oppression and things like that. So that's another term that you can look up on your own time if you want to, and maybe I'll do a video about that later. But for the moment, we're gonna focus in on Euretic, which is all about creation, invention, this new way of seeing and being with things. Let's see, I wrote down the definition so that I can make sure that I got that correct. Yeah, it's like of or relating to invention. And it's like a great term to use during this time when things are changing, right? We have a lot of people protesting. We have a lot of people seeing things in new ways. We have a lot of laws changing for the better and for the worse, you know? So if you're paying attention, you know that this is a time where great shifts are happening in our society in terms of the way that we see each other, in terms of the way that we see our history and our past, and in terms of the way that we see other people. So we need new terms to help us relate to our bodies, to ourselves, and what is happening and how we feel about the relationship there. So this term, Euretic consent, pulling from Euretic and consent, is a term that is brought together to mean the following: taking ownership of our bodies and our personal experiences in a way that we never have been permitted to do in the past. So once again, taking ownership of our bodies and our personal experiences in a way that we've never been permitted to in the past. So it's about acknowledging that consent is an evolving thing. It is something that is creative. It is something that is not stagnant. And many of us have been taught to believe that consent should be stagnant, that consent should stay the same always, just to make sure that it is clear cut. And it needs to be, quote, clear cut because it's often used as a legal term. You know, we often think of consent as something that is obtained before a person can proceed with a sexual or romantic relationship with someone. Well, sexual, I should say, relationship with someone or connection with someone. And we need to make sure that consent is clear cut so that we don't accidentally trap, people who might legitimately be trying to honor our boundaries, right? So we want to make sure that we're not accidentally sending people who are innocent to jail for crossing a line that they didn't know about. So I kind of get it, but also it's kind of gross how consent has been handled in the past, right? And it goes far beyond something that is used to make sure that, we have a harder time convicting rapists. Let's be honest. It's also a term that should be used to embody people, to help people to understand their relationship to themselves and speak up for themselves in new ways, to honor themselves in new ways, and to be honored and respected in new and transformative ways. And so I am asking you to think about this term, Euretic consent, and think about the ways in which consent doesn't have to be stagnant anymore, and consent can be transformative. Consent can evolve with our culture and with our knowing of ourselves. So now that we are in the post-Me Too era or whatever, and people are honoring people's boundaries in new ways, people are respecting those boundaries in new ways, people are understanding, thanks to things like cuddle parties, that, we do need to get consent, not only for sex, but also for hugs, also to hold hands, also for everyday little touches and things like that. And that we can ask for that. And we can ask that those around us respect that and honor that. And so as we move into this time of revolution, or I should say continue in this time of revolution, we need to remember that the way that we relate to our bodies and our experiences can also evolve and change, right? So we're forging these new relationships with ourselves in a way that demands a new level of respect from others as new boundaries are formed. So new boundaries are being formed, friends. We're reevaluating things. We're re-examining things because it's necessary, because it's important. And I feel like we are more supported during this time than we ever have been in the past. So I support you and honor you if you are a woman who needs to step up and change the way that your boundaries have been perceived. Change the way that you ask for things. Change the way that you demand things. Change the way that you state consent. I honor that and I respect that. If you are a man that needs to reevaluate the way that you ask for consent, the way that you look at consent, the way that you respect the boundaries of others, I support that and encourage that. If you are a non-binary person or a trans person who is discovering what it means for you to use the pronouns that are right for you and to demand that other people use those correct pronouns, not only for you, but also for your friends who may also be reevaluating what pronouns they feel comfortable with or what pronouns feel correct for them, then I honor you and respect that as well. Like, it's about that. It's also about race. It's also about the ways that we see that we have been systematically disrespecting and dishonoring Black folks, and other people of color with these statues, with this bullshit, with the terms that we use, with the ways that we have empowered people, the way that we have disempowered people, and the ways that we have created structures that don't allow folks to feel seen and respected. Euretic consent is about asking permission to evaluate, asking permission to change the experiences of others, or relate to the experiences of others, to connect with others' bodies in new ways. And for ourselves as well, it's about us seeing ourselves and seeing our boundaries in new ways and allowing ourselves to honor the ways that those are evolving. So that's pretty much it, folks. Euretic consent. I hope that you will take this term and use it. And also, if you've made it this far, you may be wondering where this term came from and why you've never heard of it. Well, you probably never heard of it because it came to me about 3 nights ago. I woke up in the middle of my sleep and the term Euretic, which is at the top of my mind, and I didn't in my conscious mind know what it meant, so I needed to like go and Google it. But yeah, so it came to me. It's probably a term I've heard a long time ago. And it immediately at 2:30 in the morning was coupled with the word consent in my head. And so Euretic consent is a term that, that I wrote down in the middle of the night a few nights ago. And it's a new term. It's never been created before. And so I encourage you to spread the word about Euretic consent, to play with it, to help me to evolve it, help me to better define what it means, and help me come up with some examples of Euretic consent and how it can be used in our everyday lives. Because I am brilliant, yes, but I also know that y'all are freaking brilliant, and I am so much smarter with y'all. So please comment down below if you have thoughts and ideas about ways this can be used in your life, ways that you are already redefining what consent means for you, ways that you have redefined your boundaries during the revolution. And I also hope that you will check back soon, because I'll be posting in the near future a link, possibly a Zoom link or something of that sort, maybe Facebook Live, we'll see, with me and at least one friend discussing this term and talking about its impact in our lives and the way that we relate to it as a society. All right, I love you bunches. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. Bye for now.